Hello viewers, welcome back. In this session, we will see what are the controls that Tally brings in each of the voucher type. In the last session, we discussed about the different voucher types which Tally provides for us to capture our transactions related to those nature of transaction. So we saw different voucher types, and now for each of the voucher type, we will see what are the controls or what is the intelligence that has been built inside each of this voucher type for us to ensure that we are not going to commit the basic error. Okay, so let me quickly share my screen. As usual, we will first see in Tally ERP what are the controls that are there, and the same kind of control is available in Tally Prime also. So there is no change between this each voucher type behavior in Tally, either in Tally ERP or in Tally Prime. Okay. So first, let's come back to the voucher entry screen. So let's go to voucher entry screen. And so again, the keyboard shortcut is for accounting voucher V. So we have this payment voucher. Now, in the payment voucher, uh, there are different ways of capturing the transaction. So one, right from the beginning of our session, we have seen and we understood the transaction in terms of debit and credit. Okay, there is another term used for debit and credit, which is buy. So the replacement of debit is buy, and for credit it is to. The different kind of people, who are comfortable with these kind of nomenclature, right? So one is the typical accounts background, and a typical accounts person is comfortable with debit and credit. And if you see, some of them are not really comfortable with this debit credit. They confuse with debit and credit. So we have this buy and to also. So generally, if you see, buy is something which is coming into the company. So how do you interpret buy? You associate with something coming into my company, and two is associated with something going out or to be paid to somebody at a later point in time. Okay, so this is the two ways of doing it. Now, Tally also is giving you another way of capturing your payment receipt, and especially the payment receipt and contra, where for a non-accounting person, right? For a non-accounting person, generally a businessman who is not very comfortable with this accounting convention, and if that person wants to capture, will Tally allow the person to not get confused with the debit credit by to, but just simply capture with a simple logic of, when I make a payment, how am I making a payment, to whom am I making a payment, or for what I'm making a payment. So this becomes more of a non-conventional accounting entry, but taking care of your accounting convention also, right? So the first thing that we are seeing now, which I had configured, but remember that when you create your company for the first time, by default, Tally will have a different interface for your payment receipt and contra. So what is that interface that is going to be there? Basically, that interface, we call it as single entry mode of accounting. Now, don't get confused with single entry system of accounting. This is also a double entry system of accounting, but by enabling single voucher entry mode for your, especially for your payment, receipt, and contra, it will not ask you the debit and credit aspect of it. So let us see how does the single entry mode of voucher entry looks like, and how do we interpret the transaction, and also we will witness and see that how easy and simple is it for the user to capture the transaction without the confusion of debit and credit, or buy and to. Okay, so for me to enable this, I had actually disabled the single entry mode. How do you enable the single entry mode? So remember, you are secret number 2. The secret number 2 is your F12 configure, right? So I'm going to press F12 configure, and the second option here, right, use single entry mode for payment, receipt and contra voucher. So I'm going to say yes, I'm comfortable with single entry mode. So let's see how the single entry mode interface is going to look like. Okay, now if you see here, in the single entry mode, you don't have this debit or credit. Okay, and it is very simple. So first, in the payment voucher, it is asking account. Okay, so how do you interpret, or how do you consider these fields for your entry? Okay, so in the payment, it is asking you the account. That means it is asking you, uh, Tally is asking you, how are you making payment? Very simple. I am going to make a payment either through cash or through my bank. Okay, so now when I press here, if you see here, in the single entry mode, uh, Tally is actually showing you only the two ledgers. Okay. Now quickly, let me just show you the number of ledgers that we have created here, right? So I'm just going to go back to gateway of Tally. I'm pressing D for display, L for list of account. Okay. Now if you see here, there are 13 ledgers that we had created in this company. So you have this capital account, proprietor's current account, which we entered the opening balances here. Then we have so many ledgers. Like in your indirect expenses, you have conveyance, rent, salaries. These are the ledgers that are there. Okay. And now when I come to voucher entry mode, now when I come to accounts, now this is again one of the intelligence that Tally is built in, so that you quickly select the right kind of ledgers. So payment, Tally is asking you, how are you making payment? Now if the list of ledger is not getting listed, all you need to do is press space bar. The moment you press space bar, you will see now on the right hand side there are only two ledgers. So we just now saw there are 13 ledgers created in this company, but Tally is only showing you two ledgers. So it is asking you, are you making payment through cash, or are you issuing a check, or are you making payment through bank? So let's say I'm saying that I'm making a payment through cash. Now it is asking me particulars. So if you notice, there is no debit credit. Okay. Now in the particulars area, Tally is asking you, tell me on what account you are paying, or to whom are you paying, right? Now again, the list of ledger is not listed here. I'm going to press space bar, and now you see all the ledgers are getting listed here. Okay, that is one filter in case of your account, which is cash and bank. Now you will select the relevant ledger. For example, let us say I'm paying conveyance of 500 rupees through this payment voucher. So I'm going to type CON, my conveyance ledger is selected, enter, and what is the amount that you're paying? I'm saying I'm paying 500 rupees, enter, and it is that simple. So no confusion of debit and credit. Okay. So let me save this voucher. I made the payment. Now it is asking you for the second payment. So this is one mode, or this is one method of capturing your payment voucher. Okay. Now the other method. Now in this case, let us say that I am not comfortable using the single entry mode. So how do I now convert that into a double entry mode? Okay. Now one more thing, in the single entry mode, it is easy for you to understand the payment and receipt. So in the payment, it is asking you the account. You know that whether you're going to pay by cash or through bank. Similarly, when I press F6 receipt, again it is going, the interface is the same thing. Again it is asking you the account here. Right now when I press spacebar here, again Tally is giving me only those two ledgers. When I say that I am receiving money, now this is why in the previous session I explained to you about what is that each voucher type Tally allows you, and when do you use these voucher for what kind of transaction, right? So when I say I'm making a receipt entry, you are going to receive money either by cash or through your bank account. That is why Tally is filtering your ledgers and giving you only those ledgers which are required here. Okay. Now, Contra also, you can enter it in the single entry mode. But what I have noticed out of my experience during my training and also interactions with the Tally customers, this is where people get confused. Now they don't know. See, in payment and receipt, it is very clear, receiving cash or paying cash. Okay, but in Contra, if I am depositing cash into bank, or if I'm withdrawing cash from bank. So what is the account that I'm going to do? This is going to be the confusion. So just remember this, right? So in the account area, here also again Tally is going to filter out only the cash and bank. Now in the account area, whatever ledger that you are selecting here, that ledger balance is going to increase. That is the account that you're selecting in Contra on top. For example, if I'm selecting cash, that means my cash balance is going to increase. So what does it indicate? When I select cash on the uh, top of the account or in the account field, which is an indication that I am going to withdraw money from bank. So by withdrawing money from bank, the balance in the bank is going to come down, and the to the exact amount the balance in the cash is going to increase. Now for example, let us say you are seeing cash balance as 11,900. So I am going to say I am going to withdraw 5,000 rupees from bank. So that is going to be my transaction. So in the single entry mode, if you are withdrawing cash, the cash balance has to go up. So any account balance, either cash balance or bank balance, if the balance is going to increase, you will select that ledger in the account field. Okay, so I'll just show this now. So I'm going to withdraw 5,000 rupees cash, right? So just notice here, my current cash balance is 11,900 and I have not entered the amount here. Okay, so I'm going to withdraw 5,000 rupees from bank. Enter, and you will notice here my cash balance is updated to 16,900. Now, the moment I save this voucher, my balance in the bank is reduced by 5,000 rupees, and my cash balance is increased by 5,000 rupees. So let me just save this voucher. Okay. So this is one area that you have to remember. No problem if you still feel that this part of single entry in your contra is confusing, right? No worries. So all you need to do is again press your F12 configuration, which is your secret number 2. Press F12 configuration, and if you're not comfortable, you come here and then say use single entry mode for payment, receipt, contra voucher. Make it as no. Enter and press Control A. Okay. So now you are back into your debit and credit. If you are comfortable, you can do this. So now you know, okay, if you are going to withdraw money from bank, so the balance in the bank is going to come down. Just remember our golden rules, right? So money is going out from the bank. So you're going to credit your bank account, enter, okay, enter the amount 1,000 rupees, and then the debit bank is going to balance in the cash is going to go up. You're going to debit cash, and then you're going to enter. Okay. Now, what is the intelligence that is built here? Let us see. So let me just come back to contra entry here, voucher entry, and this is my previously saved voucher. So the contra is showing here now. So now if you see in the contra entry, we discussed in the last session that a contra entry voucher is used in Tally for transfer of fund. That means money from cash to bank or bank to cash, right? So so Tally knows that it has to be transfer of fund. So on the credit side, if you see, Tally is listing only those ledgers which are created under the group called cash in hand and the group under bank account or bank OD account. Okay, only those ledgers will get listed. If you have created petty cash under cash account, petty cash ledger also is going to get listed here. Or if you have another bank account, say State Bank of India, then if you have put them, if you have grouped them under your bank account or OD account, that also is going to get listed here. So let us say I'm going to say I am crediting cash bank, which means I'm going to withdraw 1,000 rupees. Okay, now I come to the debit side. Okay, Now, when I come to the debit side, and again, you will notice that Tally is giving you the filtered list of ledger which is relevant for this voucher type. That is the ledger under your cash and bank, right? So this is another. These are the intelligence which I was talking about for each voucher type. So this we spoke. With this we saw in case of the contra entry, right? Now let me come to a payment voucher. So I come to voucher entry again. I'm going to press F5. Now I am in the double entry mode, right? So we will see what control Tally brings in case of my payment in the double entry mode. Okay. So I'm going to debit, right? So let's say I'm going to debit rent. Okay. Okay. Before that, if you see here, now in on the debit side, Tally is listing out all the ledgers. Okay. So I'm going to say I am paying rent of 10,000 rupees. Okay. Now on the credit side also Tally is listing out all the ledger. Now you must be wondering, when it is a payment, why does Tally list out all the ledgers, right? So see, many a times, especially in case of your in case of your payment entry, where you are making some purchases, right? Which is not related to your trading or manufacturing activity. So you will have your basic purchase, and also you will have your taxes. Okay, that is one aspect of it. So in that case, okay, what you also need to do is that, I mean, like, you need other ledgers also to capture in the payment voucher or in the receipt voucher. Okay. The other aspect is that various other scenarios will be there, where, I mean, like, there could be some TDS entries and various other thing which you need to capture them in single voucher. So that is why in the double entry mode of accounting, Tally is going to give you the list of all these ledgers. Okay. Even though Tally is giving you the list of all these ledgers, there could be a chance that the person would have not selected the cash ledger. Let us take this use case, and instead of me selecting cash or bank ledger, let us say by mistake. So I thought I am selecting cash ledger, but my cursor has gone to conveyance ledger, and I've selected conveyance. I did not notice this. Okay, and I'm in a hurry to save this voucher. Okay, let us say. So I'm enter, and now Tally gives a message. You see the message here. Tally says no cash or bank account credited. You are in the payment voucher, right? So even though you are getting the list of all account, right, you need to have one credit where there is a cash or bank account. If you get one credit where there is a cash or bank account, Tally will accept. So this way, Tally brings the control that in case of a payment voucher, if cash is not credited, Tally will not allow you to save this voucher. So this is the control that Tally brings in case of your payment voucher. Similarly, in case of receipt voucher, okay. So in case of a receipt voucher, let's quickly see the receipt voucher. Okay, in case of a receipt voucher, let us say credit is I can say some income. Let us say I just say um, some income, or let's say this rent is credited. I'm going to receive rent, so I'm going to credit rent. Okay, so 10,000 rupees I've credited, and I am supposed to now debit my cash or bank, because the receipt of rent, either I should be getting it through cash or through bank. Okay, so again I have made a mistake. Instead of selecting cash, I have selected, let us say, or instead of selecting bank account, I have gone and selected by mistake loans and advances account. Okay, so 10,000, enter, enter. Again, Tally will stop you because there is no cash or bank account debited. Okay, so that is where Tally stops you. So until and unless you don't debit a cash or bank account, you cannot save this voucher. Okay, this is the other control that brings in. Now we will see what are the controls that Tally brings in your purchase and sales voucher type. Okay, in the voucher mode. So again, I come to voucher entry screen, and let me select purchase voucher. Now in the purchase voucher, you see here, Tally is now going to give you filtered vouchers. Like for example, in the purchase, one very important thing that you have to remember, which I forgot to mention in the beginning, is that in every voucher type, if you notice, right, so you just see here, the first credit or debit is determined by tally. Okay, now in case of purchase voucher, you cannot now press backspace to change the credit into debit, right? So the first line item in every voucher, the credit or debit, is determined by tally. Why tally is doing this? Because it has to bring those internal controls. That is why each voucher type, tally has the first credit or debit non-editable. So in case of purchase voucher, if you see there is credit, you cannot change it. So first you credit it and then you go for your debit ledger. In case of payment voucher, sorry, in case of receipt voucher, again the first one is credit, which you cannot modify. In case of payment voucher, the first ledger is to be debited. In case of sales voucher, the first ledger is to be debited. In case of contra voucher, the first ledger needs to be credited. Okay. Now let's come to purchase voucher. In the purchase voucher here, let us see here. Enter, enter, and if you notice here, we had 13 ledgers. We had expenses ledger, we had other ledgers under balance sheet item like loans and advances. We saw the list of ledgers. But what Tally is doing here, okay, what is the voucher type that you are using? Now you are making a purchase entry. So if you're making a purchase entry, how does a company makes a purchase, right? So when you make a purchase, either you make a cash purchase, or you make a purchase through bank, or obviously you will purchase through your supplier, vendor, or your sundry creditors. And also you can purchase from your sundry debtor. There is no rule which says you cannot buy from a person to whom you are selling, right? So you are selling product A to your customer, and he is dealing in some other product B, which is required by you. So you can sell to a person and also you can buy from the person. So keeping that logic, what Tally is done, Tally will list out all the ledger. In case of purchase, in the first credit line, Tally will give you the list of all the ledgers which are grouped under the group cash, bank, sundry debtors, and sundry creditors. So only those ledgers will be populated here. So if I'm going to buy on credit, okay, if I'm going to make a purchase on credit, I'm going to select the party and I'm going to enter the. Now we will see on the debit side what filter Tally applies. Okay, so I press enter, and if you notice here, Tally is going to list out only those ledgers which are grouped under your purchase account. Okay, now the question will come, fine, I am purchasing, but what about my tax ledger? Or there might be some other expenses ledger. For example, I'm purchasing goods, and in that purchase invoice there is freight inward also, maybe there is insurance also, but then Tally is not listing out those ledgers. How do I capture? No problem, right? Remember your secret number 2. By default, Tally will allow only those ledgers which you have grouped under purchase. But if you want other ledgers, like the example that I gave you, in your purchase invoice, you have other expenses ledger also, like packing material, handling charges, freight charges. And if you have created those ledger under direct expenses or indirect expenses, whatever group that you have created, how will you get those items here? Because without capturing that, your purchase entry is not going to be complete, right? So for that, you use your F12 configuration, press F12 configuration, and in F12 configuration here in Tally, you also have various configurations which are predefined, which you can enable them based on your requirement. And also there is, if you notice at the bottom, it says press F12 for more options. So there are more options which are there. So what you want is that you want the list of all the ledgers under your income and other expenditure group also. So if you see here, that information is not available in this first screen of your F12 configuration. So what you need to do, press F12 again. And if you see here, the second option, this is by default, the second option is going to be set as no. So here the option says allow expenses fixed assets in my purchase voucher. Okay, so you press yes, enter, control A. Okay, and one more control A to do this. And now suddenly you will notice that you are now getting the list of all the ledgers that you have created under your other expenses group also. So I can select my purchase here. For example, let us say I select my purchase here and I say my purchase is 9,500. Okay. And then debit, he is charging conveyance for getting this thing. So ideally it is a freight account. Okay. Okay, fine. Now he is charged freight of 500. Okay. Now I have not created this ledger called freight. It is not there. Now how do I now get this freight ledger? So the normal tendency is that I have to now escape, go back to gateway of tally, and then go to accounts info, go to ledger, create, enter, come back, and again re-enter this whole thing. So what tally says, don't worry, you don't have to keep going back and forward to create your master. Tally is giving you the facility to create the master on the fly. So how do you create the master on the fly? Very important, please make a note, right? So whatever is the ledger that you want to select here, or you want that ledger for this particular transaction, and if you have not already created that ledger, you can create the ledger right from this particular screen. How do I create? If you notice here, my in my second debit, I need to have a ledger called freight inwards. It is not there, it is not listed here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to press Alt C. C for create. I'm going to press Alt C in the particulars field. I am going to press Alt C, and now you will notice that ledger creation secondary is come. So I'm going to type freight inwards, enter, and I'm going to put it under direct expenses, enter, control A, and automatically the ledger gets created and it also gets selected. You don't have to again select. So in freight inward, sorry, this should be 9,500. Okay, my freight inward is 500, and automatically, if you notice here, tally is taking the balance, because tally has to ensure that the total of your credit and total of your debit has to match. And another important thing, that unless and until the total of your credit and total of your debit does not match in the voucher, okay, tally again will not save this voucher. Okay, so now it has picked up the balance amount, and 9,500, is your freight charges. Okay, credit you have done, and then you can save this voucher. Enter, enter, enter. I've saved this voucher. Okay. Similarly, in case of sales voucher, so let's come to the sales voucher. In case of sales voucher, also again here, by default, Tally is giving you the first debit. So you will notice here, it is very simple now. You will notice here, it is going to give you the list of ledger under cash, bank, sundry debtors, and sundry creditors. So you're going to make the purchase here, right? And then let's say sales, you're making a sale of 50,000 rupees. On the credit side, press space bar, right? So now if you see, nothing is getting listed, which means I have not created my sales ledger in this case, right? So what do I do? So now we know how to create a new ledger on the fly, right? So I'm going to press Alt C, right? I'm going to type sales under sales account, enter, right? Control A, sales is getting populated automatically and it captures the credit value. And I can save this voucher. Okay. Now let us come to journal entry. So F7 is my journal entry. In the journal entry, first tally is asking you debit. Now, journal entry is the one voucher where tally is going to list out all the ledgers that you have created. No filters is going to be applied in the journal voucher. On the debit side, you will get all the ledgers that you have created. Select any ledger, because mostly you use journal for adjustment purpose. You select any ledger, right? And again, on the credit side, it is going to give you a list of all ledger, right? So now, if you notice, you must be wondering why in journal entry, cash and bank account also is getting reflected here. Okay. Now there is a configuration. So some users, what they do, they are used to this journal entry thing. So some of them would want to capture in journal entry, the cash related transaction, bank related transaction also. Ideally, you would not capture the cash and bank related, because you already have a payment and receipt voucher. So if you want to avoid, so the question now is, I don't want cash or bank account to get reflected here, or I don't want to pass any cash related or bank related transaction in my journal entry. Can I avoid it? The question is, yes, you can avoid it. How can I do it? Again, like I mentioned in our secret class, that this two secret is very, very important, right? So you see secret number one, right hand side button bar, bottom button bar. Is there an option? In fact, there is no option for you to not bring cash or bank. So what is that next thing that you're going to do? You're going to use your F12 configuration. So press F12 configuration, right? And in the journal entry, so you see here the fourth option. Okay, so the fourth option, it says allow cash accounts in journal voucher. Because I have made this option as yes, you are getting the list of cash and bank also in the journal voucher. If you don't want, I'm going to say no, enter, control A, right? And now if you notice here, the cash ledger and the bank ledger is vanished. So that means you cannot make any cash or bank related journal entry now with the configuration that we have set now for avoiding cash and bank entries. Okay. So this is how basically the controls that Tally brings in each of the voucher type, right? So one more thing I just want to show you is that now when you come to the payment voucher, right? In the payment voucher, I will just show it, becomes much easier for us to understand. So I had mentioned earlier that some of them are comfortable with this buy and to, right? So how do we do this thing? So let me just start with a fresh voucher entry. Now, I don't want this debit or credit. I'm confused. So what do I do now? Again, use your secret number two, which is your F12 configuration. Press F12 configuration here and see this option here, which says use credit debit instead of to buy during the entry. Okay. So if this is yes, because it is yes, in every voucher in the double entry mode, you are getting this debit and credit. If you make this as no, let us see what happens. Control A, and now it is buy and to. Okay, so if you are comfortable with this, buy is again, how do you interpret, which I had mentioned earlier? How do you interpret? Buy is something which is coming to you. To is something which has to go out, or coming in, going out, impacting me, impacting somebody. Okay, so that is how you interpret and then you capture. Like for example, let me capture the conveyance entry. So buy is conveyance, which is my expenses, 100. Okay, and two, cash is going out, so it is impacting my cash. Two is out, buy is in. Okay, in is my expenditure, two is my cash going out. Enter, 100 gets captured automatically. Enter and accept. Okay, so this is about our voucher type in Tally with the internal controls mechanism that Tally is built in for us to understand, so that when you are capturing the entry in Tally, you are certain that you are going to make the proper entry, at least the fundamental or the basic thing you are going to capture them properly. If you're selecting the wrong ledger, then it's a different question. but then the fundamental aspect of it is taken care by Tally. Okay, so in the next session we will see, we will try and pass some entries in each of the voucher type, and we will see how the entries are getting captured in Tally. Okay, so thank you all once again for staying till the end. If you're not subscribed, kindly subscribe. Share this link or video to your friends so that they can also get benefited. See you all until the next session. Thank you very much.